Next up is Marc Voigt, Chief Executive of Immutep. Immutep is an Australian biotech focused on developing autoimmune and cancer immunotherapy treatments. The company's Chief Scientific Officer discovered a novel pathway called LAG-3, which allows patients to harness the power of their own immune systems to fight disease. Fast forward more than 2 decades, and Immutep has a diversified portfolio of cutting-edge immuno-oncology and immunotherapy, including 4 clinical stage candidates. Marc Voigt, welcome to Ausbiz Capital Investor Connect.
Thank you so much, Andrew. And now I would like to present Immutep. Here's my forward-looking statement. Immutep is a biotech company, and we are active in 2 major disease areas. On the one hand side, immuno-oncology, and on the other hand side, autoimmune diseases. In other words, we work with the immune system of the patients. And in case of oncology, so if you have cancer, of course, you would like to have an active immune system, actively fighting cancer. While in autoimmune diseases, you would like to bring it under control. And we developed a unique mechanism, the LAG-3 control mechanism, which allows us to interfere with the immune system in a way to upregulate it in oncology and downmodulate it for autoimmune diseases. Now we have first-in-class product candidates. We have 5 programs in total, 3 in oncology, 2 in autoimmune diseases. And we have multiple different catalysts ahead. And actually, we are becoming a phase 3 company in non-small cell lung cancer, the most important cancer indication which you have in the field of oncology. And we are not doing that alone, but together with Merck from the United States and in a combination with Keytruda, the top-selling drug of the pharmaceutical industry, generating $25 billion annual sales last year. So a very, very strong setting and a very big move for us as a company. So we work in partnerships, not only with Merck from the United States, but also we have been out-licensing a drug to Novartis, and we work with different other companies in different fields, also with top research institutes like the Monash Institute from Australia. It's always important to have a strong and good network, and it's also very important to do that from a position of strength, and here I mean financial strength. So we have a very good balance sheet with above 170 million Australian dollar according to our last 4C. We have, as mentioned, a good pipeline, meaning different programs, 5 in total. And I would like, during the course of this presentation, specifically talk about the one here at the bottom, IMP 761, which we brought into clinical development by mid of this year. As well, of course, is about our flagship, eftilagimod alpha, you see on top of this page, where we are now starting up the phase 3 clinical trial, and you will hear more about it in the next few minutes, as well as different other trials and different other combinations. And still, we have other programs moving forward. Now, how do we do that in terms of eftilagimod? How is our so-called mode of action? How does the drug work? Eftilagimod is a unique fusion protein. And we address with this protein the so-called generals of the immune system, the antigen-presenting cells. Here you see on the left-hand side, in immature dendritic cells, we add eftilagimod, and via MHC class II, the major ligand of LAG-3, so we use LAG-3 in FD, it's a part of eftilagimod, is the natural sequence of LAG-3, and activate this dendritic cell. In other words, we activate the generals of the immune system, which are providing the soldiers, the CD8 T cells. You see, for instance, a blue cell mid of the page, activating the CD8 T cells, providing those soldiers the information whom to attack, and also drafting more soldiers. So we enable the patient's immune system to actively fight cancer and specifically identify cancerous cells. And this is important, especially when you look at non-small cell lung cancer. Non-small cell lung cancer is the leading cause of cancer death globally. It's a problem for millions of patients, and it's a huge clinical benefit we can hopefully implement and set a new standard of care. And therefore, it's also commercially extremely important, and also, if you are providing a good benefit, commercially very attractive. So the total addressable non-small cell lung cancer market is expected to nearly double to $48 billion in a few years from now, by 2031. So it's highly attractive. It is important to make a difference there. And actually, we made already a difference in the past. For instance, in a trial called TACTI-002, a phase 2 clinical trial, which we are running in collaboration with Merck. It's a combination of Keytruda and eftilagimod. And you see here across the board of different efficacy parameters like objective response rate, this means tumor shrinkage, progression-free survival, and this is the gold standard and of course most important, overall survival, so patients living longer. And we saw in different segments of patients a huge benefit, a huge increase versus historic control, meaning here Keytruda alone. So this is highly encouraging in this sizable phase 2 clinical trial with 114 patients and has been leading to a very positive reception of eftilagimod in combination with Keytruda in first-line non-small cell lung cancer. And very recently, we saw actually, again, extremely exciting results in a trial, investigator-initiated trial called INSIGHT-003. In terms of tumor shrinkage, so response rate, progression-free survival, and again, overall survival, we saw a huge benefit driven by eftilagimod and Keytruda plus chemotherapy versus historic control of Keytruda plus chemotherapy. So this is very exciting and gives us high hopes for TACTI-004, the phase 3 clinical trial, which is uniquely positioned in the first-line non-small cell lung cancer landscape. Keytruda has actually revolutionized the treatment landscape in lung cancer. And it's a top-selling drug in the whole pharmaceutical industry and predominantly applied 70–80% of lung cancer patients today get Keytruda. Still, there is a huge room for improvement in this setting. And even though it's a top-selling drug in the whole pharmaceutical industry, the chances of us setting a new standard of care together with Keytruda are very high and actually across the board of the whole patients being eligible to anti-PD-1 treatment. So when I said high chances, this of course means that you need to be successful in clinical development. And you see here the so-called study design of TACTI-004, the phase 3 clinical trial. And the phase 3 is, if successful, the last step before you register your drug. You come from preclinical development, phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, and then if that is positive, you can register your drug. So we are here at the final step of clinical development in a trial which has been designed together with the industry giant Merck, and where we will test eftilagimod plus Keytruda and chemotherapy versus placebo and Keytruda and chemotherapy, looking at progression-free survival and overall survival, so where you just saw the data from the other clinical trials, looking here to improve the situation in this large phase 3 clinical trial with about 750 patients. So we look here actually to improve the existing standard of care in a reasonable manner. It doesn't mean that you need, for instance, to double the overall survival, or that you actually need to add 70 or 80 or 60%. It means a reasonable improvement. So if the true benefit of eftilagimod in this combination is there, then a reasonable benefit will already do the job to see this combination being registered and setting a new standard of care in the most important cancer indication which is out there. And we have a number of key milestones coming up. On the one hand side, of course, the study start. Certainly we will see more than 20 countries coming on the study, certainly more than 150 hospitals around the globe, including Australia. And then in about a year from now, maybe early 26, we will see the futility analysis, which we pre-planned, as well as an interim analysis, which we hopefully see by end of 2026. So by the terms of our industry, it's a short period of time where in the most important cancer indication we will see some very important results. Now we have other indications like first-line head and neck cancer, a trial called TACTI-003, which we are running together with Merck. And we saw very good overall response rate across the board of different segments here and an increasing disease control rate, whether Keytruda typically works or suboptimally or unfortunately not at all. We saw some very good results, especially so in cohort B. This is a cohort looking at the patients typically not experiencing a benefit from Keytruda. So even though I talked here about the top-selling drug in the world, most powerful across all different indications, not only in oncology. Of course, there are major areas where this drug unfortunately doesn't work. But if you combine it with eftilagimod, you see a remarkable increase of patients experiencing tumor shrinkage. So you see this here on the right-hand side. The historic control, the normal expectation if a head and neck cancer patient is getting Keytruda, in this segment, not more than 5% of patients would typically experiencing tumor shrinkage, while we have a 7-fold increase if you add eftilagimod to the game. And also the number of complete responses was close to 10% versus unfortunately 0% is quite remarkable. So we will, moving forward, specifically focus on this segment and discuss also with the FDA regarding the right path forward. Now we have other indications, for instance, soft tissue sarcoma. Recently we presented some data in November actually, and this is a different setting. We look here at the so-called neoadjuvant setting, so a treatment before surgery. A few weeks before surgery, we treat the patients in the combination for the very first time of radiotherapy plus eftilagimod and Keytruda, and we saw some very good results. So we saw the increase, a 3-fold increase of hyalinization, which is typically a predictor of overall survival when you add eftilagimod. So very encouraging interim results from the first group of patients, 21 patients here, and we look forward to seeing more data during the course of 2025. In this orphan drug setting. Now, switching gears to IMP 761, this is first-in-class LAG-3 agonist. So it's another very exciting program, the first of its kind, where we look at the root cause of more than 90% of autoimmune diseases. So actually could be a potential game changer for the way you treat autoimmune diseases. Very often you look at symptomatic cures, so where just let's say, the consequence of the disease, whether it's pain or whether it's, in case of psoriasis, for instance, certain plaques, try to be addressed. We look here to getting rid of the cause of so many different autoimmune diseases. So it's an approach which is looking at the chronically LAG-3 activated T cells, and we specifically try to address, I refer to those cells as soldiers a few minutes before, we specifically try to address those cells and stop the friendly fire these cells are providing to different organs in our body. So bring the immune system back to the right balance is the concept here. We started clinical development mid of this year, and we will certainly see data first half and mid of next year. And we teamed up here with another world-class institute, the CHDR in the Netherlands, in Leiden to be more precise. And this clinical trial setting, it's a phase 1 clinical trial, of course looking at safety, but also looking at the biology of the drug. It's actually a blinded phase 1 clinical trial, so also a very exciting setting which allows to draw conclusions in terms of the positioning of IMP 761 in the broad field of autoimmune diseases. So the outlook, we will remain very busy in 2024, few weeks to go, but we have been delivering quite a lot during the course of this year in terms of good fundamental progress, and we look to do that even more so in 2025. Of course, in non-small cell lung cancer, phase 3, potentially more data, in metastatic breast cancer, in head and neck cancer, in soft tissue sarcoma, in urothelial cancer, in autoimmune diseases, in terms of regulatory progress. And as we become, and actually starting to become now, a phase 3 company, this is of course a completely different level. And again, from a financial point of view, we address this from a position of strength, which is also very important. So we will execute the business, hopefully in the right way, and are facing a very exciting year 2025. Thank you so much.
Marc, thanks very much. Well, let's now turn to viewer questions. Marc, the first question we have is, what benefits does a dual listing in the US bring?
So a dual listing in the United States, as we have, ticker is IMMP, we are listed in the NASDAQ, can be quite important because you have access to different pools of investors, shareholders, and also it increases the visibility in terms of the pharmaceutical industry, which are also screening the market. So it can be very important if you do it at the right stage. If you do it too early, of course, there are also some challenges like you're more heavily regulated. Besides ASX, we have, of course, also the SEC and rules we need to comply with. But overall, at the right level of maturity, it's a good thing.
The next question, Marc, how likely is it that you'll get partnerships with other biotech firms, or in fact, are you seeking those partnerships?
In fact, we have some of those partnerships already. We have been out-licensing one of our products to Novartis, and eftilagimod we have out-licensed to EOC Pharma. And we are constantly teaming up, for instance, with academic institutes in terms of clinical trials. Yes, we do have also a number of discussions around potential other transactions with the biotech, more importantly with the pharma industry. So this is, of course, our duty to constantly explore if there are good partnerships which are reflected of the intrinsic value we see in the programs. And then if the right partner is there, also to execute on those.
Now, Marc, a question in relation to the changed political landscape we've seen in the US with the incoming Trump administration. What challenges will that pose, do you think, in the environment in which you're operating, and how difficult may it be to raise capital?
First of all, raising capital is sometimes in our industry a challenge. It has been very difficult, for instance, in 22 and a good part of 23. However, this comes in waves, sometimes associated with the political sphere, sometimes not. Is more influenced maybe by interest rates going up and down, which can of course be also a function of the respective administration acting. But recently the market picked up. If you look at the relevant ETF, the XBI from the United States, so this has been rising in the past, and then every administration can have some pros and cons in terms of the political agenda they are running. So the new administration is believed to be less heavy on the regulatory side of things, meaning, for instance, the FDA, and this could be positive for the business. And there are, of course, different discussions around, for instance, Mr. Kennedy becoming health minister and his agenda. But for us, as a company being active in Australia and the United States and globally, we have our plan. We will deliver hopefully positive data. We will move forward. And the need for a drug and the need for a good drug for cancer, specifically a life-threatening disease, will never go away under which political agenda whatsoever.